Greetings, friends. I am Vitaly Portnikov. Almost a year after the murder of Kazakhstani opposition journalist Aidos Sadykov in Kyiv, the Prosecutor General's Office of Kazakhstan informed the Prosecutor General's Office of Ukraine that it does not intend to question the suspects in this crime. Let me remind you that Aidos Sadykov was shot near his own home, and the main suspects in this murder immediately became two citizens of the Republic of Kazakhstan who moreover had previously been connected to Kazakhstani security agencies. It was precisely this connection that led a number of observers, including the murdered journalist's widow, Natalia Sadykova, to accuse the Kazakhstani authorities and even the country's president, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, of being involved in what happened. In Kyiv, the two suspects were arrested in absentia and placed on the international wanted list. However, in Astana, officials stated that they would not extradite to Ukraine one of the suspects in the murder of Altai. Zakambayev, who voluntarily turned himself in to the local law enforcement authorities. As for the other suspect, Meyram Karatayev, the Kazakhstani authorities have so far provided absolutely no information about what has happened to him. Nevertheless, the General Prosecutor's Office of the Republic of Kazakhstan also refuses to interrogate Zakambayev, claiming that the General Prosecutor's Office of Ukraine does not have sufficient grounds to request such an interrogation. There is no evidence base indicating that it was Altai Zakambayev who was involved in the murder of Aidos Sadykov. And thus, one more rather important question remains: why then did Altai Zakambayev turn himself in to the Kazakhstani law enforcement agencies? And why did the Kazakhstani security forces in the first days after the murder demonstrate a willingness to solve the crime together with the Ukrainian colleagues? However, as we all clearly understand, all of these are rhetorical questions. People who were connected to the Kazakhstani security forces would hardly have been able to deal with an opposition journalist on their own initiative. There must either be involvement from criminal clans who were dissatisfied with the journalist's professional activities, or involvement from the country's top leadership, who also believed that the information Aidos Sadykov was spreading did not align with the interests of the official authorities. And it would seem that for the president of Kazakhstan, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, solving this crime should be a matter of his own political reputation, because only by obtaining real information about what happened to Aidos Sadykov, what motives guided his killers, and who they were actually connected to, could the President of the Republic of Kazakhstan clear himself of any suspicion. But as we can see, this did not happen. And as it seems to me, it will not happen. Astana will remain silent about the Sadykov case, thereby creating the impression not only of non-involvement, but also of a lack of interest in the investigation. In Ukraine, we experienced something similar when the Ukrainian opposition journalist Georgy Gongadze was killed. To this day, although those directly involved in the attack on Gongadze have been detained, the Ukrainian justice system has not answered the question: who was behind this crime? Who gave the orders to kill the opposition journalist? Where do the traces of the crime lead? And this is despite the fact that from the very first weeks after Georgy Gongadze's death, many accused the then president of the country, Leonid Kuchma, of being involved in his death and the so-called Melnichenko tapes, on which the then president of Ukraine spoke disparagingly about their position. Journalists became the trigger for a major political crisis in Ukraine, and ultimately the Orange Revolution, which swept away both the power structure that Leonid Kuchma had built up over many years and the blueprint for a regime that was already being prepared in Moscow for his, at that time, unsuccessful successor, Viktor Yanukovych. However, it is still worth noting that the murder of Georgy Gongadze was the killing of a Ukrainian journalist in his own country, whereas the murder of Aidos Sadykov is the murder of a political refugee, a person who was forced to leave Kazakhstan precisely because he feared for his safety and could not continue his professional activities in his own country. And when an opposition journalist, as they say, is found in another country, taking advantage of the difficult security situation that has developed in Ukraine in recent years of the exhausting Russian-Ukrainian war, this, of course, raises even more serious questions about how much Kazakhstan itself understands the importance of preserving at least the appearance of free media. If not on the territory of the Republic of Kazakhstan itself, then at least in emigration. It is clear that as long as the General Prosecutor's Office of the Republic of Kazakhstan does not begin to address the case of the murder of Aidos Sadykov, as long as it limits itself to sending formal replies to its Ukrainian counterparts and demonstrates that in principle it would prefer not to be involved in the investigation, despite the fact that the individual suspected of murdering the journalist are located precisely on the territory of the Republic of Kazakhstan. Suspicion of involvement in this crime will remain an important part of Kazakhstan's political landscape and a natural shadow over the reputation of the country's current president and the entire political leadership of Kazakhstan, and of course the leadership of the country's security agencies. First and foremost, the National Security Committee of the Republic of Kazakhstan, which in theory should be preventing such crimes, not covering for those directly involved in carrying them out. And it is clear that sooner or later the truth about Sadykov's murder, just as, by the way, about the murder of Gongadze and other opposition journalists, will become known and will forever remain a stain on the political reputations of those who organize these crimes in order to conceal the true motives behind their political activities, which are often entrepreneurial and corrupt in nature. Thank you, friends. Stay tuned, subscribe, follow me on social media, Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee, and Donatello to help support these resources. There's also a sponsorship feature here on YouTube. Peace to you all.